it's Daryl King here at the Daryl King Team on Yonge Street, sharing the mindsets. And I'll tell you what, we have a very special honored guest to be here today. I know, are you guys excited? Yeah. So we have the president, Don Kottick, here. And Don is the president of RE/MAX Canada, assuming the role April 28th, 2025. With over 2 decades of leadership experience, Don has held senior roles at Sotheby's International Realty, Peerage Realty Partners, Home Realty, and Royal LePage. A respected industry figure, Don has also served as director with CREA and past president of the Real Estate Institute of Canada. His career reflects a passion for innovation, growth, and elevating professionalism across the real estate industry. So happy to have him here. Thank you very much.
Daryl, pleasure to be here. For those of you that don't know, I have known Daryl for quite a long time. I've followed his career.
We followed each other.
Yeah,
or went along with each other.
Well, exactly. Sometimes I followed you, sometimes you followed me, but watching your career take off has been it's been a great show, and congratulations on all your success. What you've achieved, this amazing team and everything like that. You should be very proud of what you've attained.
I'm proud of these guys, yes. And I'm proud what we're going to do in the future, because there's lots to go.
For sure,
right?
For sure.
So we're honored and happy to have you here. So the one question I always have, and I always think, like I said, I've seen you from as a friendship, I've watched you, and, people don't realize how much work, how much commitment, how much they have to be relentless, which we had a meeting about this and talked about this, that, not doing it one day, but doing it all the time. So, when he joined as the president of RE/MAX Canada, I probably had to be one of the happiest people, because I know the Pulsers and Schneiders and Chris personally since 35 years ago. And I couldn't think of a better candidate if I had to pick it out myself. So I was super, super excited for RE/MAX Canada, because he'll tell you he's the first non-family member to run RE/MAX Canada. So give him a big hand for that, right? So can you share tell us what you can tell us about your personal journey to success, the challenges that you've overcome along the way? Because as we all know, life is a challenge, but it's how you meet that challenge and how to step out of your box. Like I mentioned you guys earlier, did you watch the ball game last night? So you seen when he threw out to Oscar that home run, right? 20, most people would fold like a tent. He came back, he looked, that focus, and he's like this, came back right with a strike and struck the next guy out. That's what you call relentless. So tell us a little bit about yourself there, Don.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is my journey to RE/MAX is actually pretty fascinating. If you haven't heard about it, so what happened was I got a call from a headhunter, and they said, do you want to be president of RE/MAX Canada? And at the time, I had been 6 years as the president of Sotheby's International Realty Canada. So my reaction to the headhunter was, no, thanks, not really interested. And so her reaction is, wow, that's great. You need to talk to, Rob in HR. I go, that's a great response to your question. That's pretty strange. And she goes, yeah, you need to talk to Rob. And so then she put me in touch with the head of HR in Denver. And then I had a similar experience, and Rob goes, you need to talk to Eric Carlson. Eric Carlson is the global CEO of RE/MAX. So I said, okay, well, I'll go along with this. And I really wasn't interested at this point. And then I started to hear about everything that RE/MAX was doing. And through this process, I started to actually really delve in deeper to RE/MAX. Now, I've competed with RE/MAX. I spent most of my career trying to hire people like you. But I've worked for Royal LePage, I worked for Sotheby's, I worked for Right at Home. And, we always tried to hire RE/MAX people, but I never really kind of looked under the hood to the level that I did with RE/MAX. And then I started looking at your market share data. And so we broke apart the market into 500,000 segments. And what we found is every single segment of the market, RE/MAX was number one. And here I'm at Sotheby's, and I'm touting luxury, and I actually became the voice of luxury real estate in Canada. And it turns out that RE/MAX is the luxury broker in Canada, but it's the best kept secret. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, that's a great opportunity for Remax because, you probably know how great Remax is. And that we do a good job of marketing to the consumer, but the industry doesn't really know the
No,
success that we have.
especially in luxury, especially
Absolutely.
because, the other competitors say they're the luxury experts, but we sell more luxury than anybody combined.
It's so true. And then so what happened was I met the leadership team. I flew to Denver and I started drinking the Kool-Aid and I signed. And honestly, it's been a wonderful experience. Every week I just get more impassioned about the Remax brand. But when I joined, I met a fellow named Chris Lim, who's the chief growth officer in
He's an
Denver.
amazing guy,
And
amazing guy.
Chris is amazing. And Chris was the former president of Christie's International Realty. So you have me coming from Sotheby's, Chris coming from Christie's, and then you have Travis Saxton, who is from T360, which is the number one real estate consulting company in the world. And Travis is the one that basically set the agenda for T360. And he also is an AI expert. And then I started to hear about all the things, how Remax was bracing artificial intelligence, all the cool things that we're doing. And we just recently hired a new technology guy from Larry Kendall's Ninja Group. He was the chief digital information officer from the group. And so they're bringing in all these different people into Remax. And you're starting to see that you have this amazing company, but there's a transformation underway. And it's kind of a faster pace of play. And that's where we are right now. So I came in not really, thinking that I was going to want to join the company. Now I'm probably one of the biggest advocates after, of course, Daryl.
Hey, we're together, brother. We're together, right? Listen, being with a competitor also and being high up in the echelon, it's I always want to come back. It's like I missed home, right? And it's where some of the best producers in the country, North America, in the world are there. So being sharing with others that are like-minded is such a great opportunity. And we're going through lots of changes in real estate today. And a lot of things are the same, but a lot of things have changed. So if you're not embracing the change, which you've embraced, and that's why I'm excited to have you, because you're not afraid of change and you're ready to make a difference. So, when we were at Remax affiliate down in Halifax, that was by far one of the greatest events because, you have roughly about 1,000 agents there, or mostly Canada, some from the States. And we had the CEO from there, and we had Travis was there, Chris Lim was there. I actually have Chris Lim on Sharing the Mindsets. So we'll be doing another podcast with him. We got you on there, which will have another little podcast. So we had some amazing people, and it was the Halifax people were so friendly and so unbelievable. Everybody just gelled together and nobody had any egos. We did things together. We learned, we had some of the most amazing speakers. Like I said, we got to raise $65,000 for CMN and hopefully out of this and all the exposure that we're going to get we're going to even raise more. So it's so exciting and people, get down and out of what's happening. But as you and I both know that you're going to get knocked down sometimes. We're going to go through some tough times, but then that growth spurt. And I really think we're ready to go on a growth spurt, that it's time to make a change. So what would have been, you see, the biggest change? You've been in the industry for 20 some years, 30 now. We're just trying to make them younger, but 30
Okay,
years,
take
right?
it.
So what would you say is some of the biggest changes that you've seen recent, and what do you think might be some of the biggest changes we got to move forward with?
But it's interesting. I mean, back in the day when the internet started, I really thought that was going to transform the industry. But I think now, I think we really are seeing a transformation in artificial intelligence. And that's one of the things that Remax is really embracing. You're going to start to see, when you go into Max Center and you go into the tools and services, you're going to see AI everywhere. And so it is going to be part of your life, whether you want to get involved with it or not. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to simplify AI so you're not really, having to learn something new because AI is there to support you. It's not there to take you out of a job. And so what we're looking at ways that we can simplify different processes, different tools, make things easier. and really help you do your business. And so that's one of the things that I think is the biggest impact in our business right now. Obviously, there's a lot of regulatory things that are going on. I just wish the government would stay out of their business, because we have the unintended consequences when the government comes in politically. They think, oh, I'm going to get votes if I do this, and then they go and they change something. For instance, the foreign buyer ban. For instance, they come in, they bring in the foreign buyer ban, and politically it sounds good to a few people, but what it did, it took the money out of people that were investing in pre-construction. And when you build a pre-construction unit, you need 70% financing, but a lot of that money comes from international, sources. So they cut off that source, and even a lot of buildings that were underway, they stopped building, right? And so Canada has historically a shortage of housing population relative to our population. And we've had this for decades. In the last 10 years exactly, we have undergone record population growth. And even now they're saying that we're slowing down, but we're not. We're bringing in 500,000 people. So we've got an affordability issue. Case in point, if you go to the subway, you don't get the first subway. You have to wait for 3 subways. You want to buy a home? It's hard to find a home. You go in the streets, they're all clogged with traffic. It's because we don't have the infrastructure or the housing to really support the population that we have, and yet they keep bringing in. So this is where governments need to start working for us as opposed to what's in their best interest. Sorry, I digress.
No, but that it is a fact, because the things that, like right now, there's an abundance of listings on only because of fear and a lot of other things. So 30,000 homes on Toronto GTA is higher than, but if the market was more active, that 30,000 would go quite quickly. So once we go through and bring those numbers down some more, there's going to be a major shortage of homes, because the builders are right now far behind the game, because a lot of them put a lot of projects on hold till things can get done. I bought a condo, it was supposed to be done a couple of years ago. In 2027 now, they're saying it's going to be done. They've done 2 undergrounds, and I see that with another project that we're working with. So a lot of things have been delayed. So it's like this bottle is full, but once it gets almost empty, then I might not be able to replenish it so quickly because there's no more out there. So then we'll go to the opposite side. So it's trying to keep a balance. And you say you're still going to have immigration coming in, even though they put all these rules on foreign tax, they're still finding loopholes regardless.
Well, the other thing that happened is we were building all these units, and then all of a sudden the government incented purpose-built rentals. So then all of a sudden these condos that are meant for the open market went to the rental market because they got subsidies. And so that took product off the market that would have, satisfied some of the demand. So this is the kind of situation where we really need all levels of government to kind of get their act together and reduce some of the levies that, will allow more construction. But, it's a bigger issue and it's very complex.
I know some of the mayors around, not our mayor of Richmond Hill, we had him, he was on our show before you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, but I know Vaughan did, they cut the levies and that, Kings cut the levies, and some other outline Mississauga. So some of those mayors have cut the levies for development that, and to expedite it, because there's nothing more frustrating for them to try and plan it. It takes years to get somewhere, right? So things need to be quicker because it becomes very costly. So what habits keep you grounded as a leader? Because, now you came, there's almost 25,000 agents in RE/MAX alone in Canada. And then you've got to answer to the public, to the agents, to the shareholders. What keeps you grounded and keeps you moving ahead in such a positive, inspirational way?
Well, before I get there, I should explain too, when I took over this role, I actually get a seat at the global leadership team as well too.
That is amazing.
That's how important Canada is to RE/MAX. So I get to go to all the board of directors meetings, and we have regular leadership meetings, and it's on a global basis. So RE/MAX is very focused on going global. We just surpassed 120 countries. We're continuing to grow. We've got over 147,000 realtors worldwide, but you're going to see a real push. Like I talked about the push to luxury, you're also going to see a push to the international, the global markets, because we want to be the number one global company brokerage in the world. We are, and maintain that as well too. So you're going to see that push. So there's a lot to do. We have 25,000. And we are the number one brokerage, in Canada from a sales perspective, like a sales volume perspective. Like this is where, once again, I'm going to keep saying this. You guys need to be very proud of yourself. When you look at your sales volume, you double Royal LePage. And you actually sometimes, when you look at the sales volume and the unit volume, sometimes we double not only number two, but number three. So the volume of business that RE/MAX agents do is amazing. And to top it off, we have the highest productivity out of any other brokerage in Canada. And this is something that, once again, you should be very proud of. And we also did another survey that said, who is the most trusted brokerage? And every single time you guys come out as the most trusted, brokers, real estate agents, brokers in the entire business. So you know what? You want to give yourself a hand, give yourself a hand.
It's funny, we just had a meeting, and one of the things I talked about is having empathy, right? It's not about sales, it's about consultation and having empathy for the consumer. Because it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with them. So I always tell them 2 ears, 1 mouth. Ask question, what's important to them? How can we find a solution to their problem? And that's how I've always operated in life. That, when I started when interest rates were 21%, I knew there was a problem. I just had to come up to a solution to fix that. So your clients have their own personal issues. There's never one or two that are exactly the same. They might be similar, but everybody has what's important to them, and find out and have that empathy. And that's what I like, the direction with all the new leadership. I love our new leadership. Like, I love the old guys, but we've been asking for changes. And, right from down with Eric Carlson and Chris Lynn and Travis and now yourself here, I think of all us old RE/MAX people, I've never been more excited for what's coming forward as a corporation to help us, to help the clients. Because that's really what it all comes down to, helping those that we're put out to help. So
I didn't answer your question though.
But that's good. I like it. So now you can tell us maybe some habits because it is very trying. It takes you a lot of energy in that.
Yeah, I mean,
you had a speaking thing. Was that yesterday? You guys did that in Halifax. One yesterday. I meant to be on it, but it's tied up.
We did the luxury session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
right.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So like, being in my position is probably no different than being in your position. You guys are in a lifestyle. Like, it's a lifestyle job, right? It's not for the faint of heart, but it's actually pretty impressive, once again, because you're entrepreneurs, right? And for lack of a better word, you eat what you kill. And if you don't make any money, you don't have anybody there to bail you out. So there's a lot of pressure on you, right? So you have to have that entrepreneurial spirit. You have to, obviously drive really hard to be successful. And like I said, it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's a 7 days a week. And once again, it's to be successful in this kind of environment speaks volumes again about the type of people, and you're achieving that. So but in terms of my position, it's very time intensive. It is a lifestyle job, and every once in a while I have a place up in Northern Ontario and I go back to nature. I don't necessarily hug a tree, but I go up and just being back in nature, like even like a day or two up in nature, your blood pressure comes down.
You have to.
Yeah, and you recharge and you're able to come back and, tackle things again. And that's kind of, the one thing that really, I know there's certain times I got to get in the car, I got to go north, and then I come back, I'm all ready to go.
My beginnings were like that. I used to work 7 days a week, 14-hour days. And I mean, I didn't have any training. I didn't have any coaches. I came from nothing but nothing, no family in the business, just a dream. And I used to work, like I said, you can take a scratch board, scratch your scratch board. That would be me, right? So you need to take some time out and recharge yourself. So eating healthy, drinking lots of water, getting proper sleep, listening to the proper people, right? That's why having great leadership and coming in is, to me, it just, my whole heart and my whole body just tingles. I get excited. Having all you guys today makes me tingle, right?
Yeah.
So, things that you need to recharge, because there's so much white noise out there that if you listen to that, we'll be just like all depressed. And the liberal government, unfortunately for me, is a depressing thing. And I don't like to talk politics, but it's not doing the country too much good.
Well, yeah, I won't.
We'll stay away from that.
No, but
I shouldn't have got in.
I'm not going to argue with you either. But the thing is, obviously, if I do mentor a number of people, and one of the things that I tell people to do is live with an abundance mindset. And some people say, "Oh, that sounds kind of hokey," but I really do believe, the saying, "You give what you get." And like Daryl, was one of the top people, giving to our charity
Network, yes.
in Halifax, right? And good things come to Daryl, right? And I believe that, it's really important that you have that mindset, because the more you give, the more you get. And you have this, mindset that whatever happens, you're going to get through, right? Doesn't matter what it is, at the end of the day, things will get better. And if you live with that mindset, you actually start to feel a little lighter, and good things come to you. And I swear by that mantra, and it's how I've lived my life, and, I've had a great life. Obviously, everybody has cyclical moments, but it always comes back. But if you keep that positive mindset, you keep that abundance, the world will keep delivering to you. And, I strongly urge you, always try and follow that track.
It's so funny. We just talked about that, and that's what I explained to them. That's being relentless, giving back, I was telling them about, and I was using the Toronto Blue Jays as a metaphor because I love sports and for business and stuff. But, my personal email is darylking67@gmail.com. That's the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Now, I've been in the good abundance of seeing the Jays. I have my sweater in the back. Someone grabbed my sweater in that back room. So it's got on here, World Series champ Algrado Griffin, and I bought it for, I think, for $1,200 or something at the time. That was 32 years ago. So the good fortunate part is I'm still alive, and I'm going to get to see them hopefully win another World Series, right? And I went to the very opening game. I was with my good buddy Ray. We sat right behind home plate, and they got thrashed 11-something. And the year before they didn't make the playoffs, and here we go again. It was just like not believe, and just these guys are not doing it right. But their coach has been there 22 years. So with the minors and stuff like that. So we would be reminisce, to not have our Jays here. And there's our World Series. So right there, right?
Cool.
So hopefully we'll have that in 2025. I think tomorrow night will be a good answer for it. But a lot of people stop believing in them along the way.
Right.
But as I exemplified to these guys, I've never seen, and I watch sports and I watch other things, but I've never seen a team support each other, be so from bottom to top, be so working with each other, even the newer players, that you can't lose. You're not the most talented, but as a team, you're unstoppable. And that's how RE/MAX is.
Yeah, for sure. But
and us.
But the Blue Jays, like as you said, like you have LA, which have some of the
biggest
highest,
payroll in all of baseball by 3 times.
Individual superstars, and yet you have the Blue Jays, which is a team, and it just shows you, how the collective is much stronger than the individual, because I know that they're a team, but the Jays are really coming together. And it's that, union that is creating the strength. And we're going to see the World Series.
You're downtown tomorrow. Look out. It's going to be.
I'm worried about their pitcher tomorrow night, but I know we'll get Game 7 for sure.
Oh, no, he'll be okay. He'll be okay. He's their ace still. But, it's having that belief and pulling for each other and going together. And I can't emphasize that enough. RE/MAX has a global identity, and us as a Daryl King team, it's the same thing. Working together as a unit, as a team, as a family, that you can overcome all odds. There's nothing that we can't be challenged and can overcome. And that's what's most important. We don't have to be the best. We don't have to be the strongest. We don't have to be the fastest. We don't have to be any of that. But as a collective unity with REMAX and ourselves, there isn't anything that we cannot overcome. And we'll get set back. Look at that game 3, 2 innings, the longest baseball in World Series history, 18 innings, 6.5 hours or whatever. And I don't know, 18 pitchers, 19 pitchers, like the world. I went to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was so tired the next day. They came back and they could have easily lost, but they picked themselves up and smoked them.
Amazing.
Right? We're going to fall. Get up again.
Right? But also the team, though, I mean, looking at it realistically, real estate isn't for everybody. Not everybody can be successful. And, and same with the team. Not everybody fits on your team. Sometimes it's like the book Good to Great. You get the right people on the team. And, some people get on the bus. Some people don't get on the bus. Some people, struggle to get on. And then some people with development can get on the bus. So it's a process, but, you keep striving and keep getting better. And obviously, the success of this operation speaks once again to, this team and the power of everything that you've accomplished and continue to accomplish. And, but once again, not everybody's going to be able to be on that team.
No. And, in anything that we do, you have to be coachable.
Sure.
And so, with the coach, when they lost game 3, everybody was saying he made some mistakes. It's easy to say when you sit at back, because I thought they made mistakes, but he got us there and now he's got us here. So there is going to be setbacks. We're not perfect. You have to understand that. No matter what industry we work in, there's no such thing as perfection. You strive for perfection, but you're still going to make errors. You're still going to make mistakes. And it's being able to overcome those mistakes and those rejections and them downfalls that you can lift yourself up. That's how you succeed. And that's how the winners succeed.
But there's an element of intuition, right? The more that you hone your intuition, the more successful you'll be. Like in terms of when I make decisions, a lot of times you can be overloaded with data, or sometimes you just feel that this is the right decision. And speaking of the Blue Jays, the coach went to the data for his intuition and he made the wrong call, and the data was saying, this is the way you got to go. So he went that way and he realized that was the wrong call.
That was definitely the wrong
The
call.
game where they won with that young pitcher, his intuition said, leave him in the game. The numbers say pull him, but he left him in, and his intuition, basically got him through the wave. So the more you can become dependent on your intuition, obviously you'll make some mistakes, but the more successful you'll become as well too.
So what he talks about is analytics. You can always go back into history and graph everything, but in every situation, it's not the same because it's the emotions, it's the belief, the systems, and as a unit, like that, the Barger that made that catch last night at Sotheby.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Right? So Barger was like this guy's becoming a rock star as far as hitting. If you guys watched the game last night, Sotheby is by far the best baseball player in history. And I don't think there's any doubt on that. Like, he's the highest paid, but well worth it because he does things that no one else has ever done. Right now, Savage is doing the same thing at 22 years old. So, but, he got a hit, and Barger, who was sort of a part-time player, not even full-time, he made one of the greatest catches of all time to catch that ball. Boom. Solidified. Next one, strikeout, end of inning. That ball had to went in past him. Chances are he could have ran to third because he's a very fast runner and no one was there to back him up. So there's certain things that you just have to step out of your comfort zone and believe you can do it and make it happen. And I always say the biggest thing is having that belief and that confidence that you can do it.
Right. And speaking of that, I mean, if you had told me 20 years ago that I would be the president of REMAX, I would probably said, you're probably crazy. If you had told me I would stand.
Even 1 year ago.
Well,
maybe a year and a half, maybe a year and a half.
But the interesting thing is if in Halifax, I got in front of 1,000 people that attended the conference and I was speaking on stage. If you had told me from somebody that didn't want to public speak, that they would be on stage speaking in front of 1,000 people, I would have said you're crazy. So once again, if you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, I honestly believe there's nothing that you can't do. You guys can accomplish anything if you believe in yourself and your ability. And yeah, you might not always be successful, but keep trying, be persistent, and you'll get there, right? Because anything's attainable. That's the beauty of, kind of our society. Just anything's attainable if you set your mind to it and you believe in yourself.
See, everybody write that one down, attainable. Everything is attainable, right? As long as you have that courage, that belief, everything is attainable. Listen, I couldn't have been the center of LA Lakers. I'm not 6'7", so that's not going to happen. But you have to have your limitations also. You can't jump off a cliff and think you're going to survive a fall 500 feet. That's probably not going to happen either. So be realistic about that belief.
For sure.
So that's important, right? But most things, if someone else can do it, you can do it. And when I was on stage with Tony Robbins, 15,000 people in attendance, I said, I can do it. You can do it. Right. So you just have to have that courage, that strength. And that's what I love with the new leadership that we have with RE/MAX, that I just think we just totally, because complacency sits in. You've been a leader. And I remember that happened with other company before RE/MAX come in. So you get complacent. GM used to be the same way. Big corporation didn't make the turn. So now with all the new leadership, with you and everybody down south and stuff like that, and some of the other ones in our Canadian, I just believe the sky's the limit. That it's amazing. And right now, real estate is going through lots of different changes, like you say, with AI, regulatory things, affordability, so many things. So it's staying on the game and staying on top of it. And that's what you guys are doing to help us, that we can help the clients, which is the vocal point of everything. If you lose sight of that, remember, we're secondary. I always say we could be number one, but we're not number one. The clients are always number one. If you can always keep that focus in mind, they're to look after us, that we can look after the clients. Our main focus is to look after the clients. So always keep that in perspective.
Well, speaking of that, so like from our strategic perspective, even though we're number one, we're actually, behaving like we're number two or number three, trying to attain number one position. So, we've got this, kind of, the sense of urgency, that we're not going to sit back. We're not going to accept and say, hey, we're number one, we're going to sit back. That's why we're launching things like marketing as a service, which is a way to amplify your listings. And if you don't know about it, you should know about it, like our Max Refer. And a lot of these other products that you're seeing that we're bringing forward are there to help you, basically, get more listings, save you time, and be more profitable. And that's kind of our mantra. And so you're going to see a lot of stuff coming forward. Just make sure you embrace it, whether it's AI, whether it's products and services, because it's there to help you. And that's kind of what we're trying to do is, and speaking of, the team, like we all really enjoy working with each other. Like we have like a great chemistry. There's no egos. Like everybody is here just, to make RE/MAX, bigger and better. And that's what we're going to do. And, once again, it's great reconnecting with the, people like you from the early days.
Well, we had our buddy Matthew, who you had on yesterday, right?
Yeah,
Same thing. So, it's a lot of things go around in a circle in our industry, because people that are around for a long time, they might have been at another brand or wherever, but as long as you still have that belief, because it's business, whatever you do, it's a business and it's your business. This is a team and it's our family, but it's still you Inc. also. And even out there, that anyone that's watching that is not here, that's part of the team, that, now there's a new generation of realtors coming to the industry. What do you think of I think the new generation, when you talk about AI and their analytics and that, the only thing that I worry about some of them is their communication skills, and they just think that AI is going to do everything. I'm going to tell you right now, AI is not going to replace you guys. It can help you, but it's not going to replace you. You still have to move forward. You still have to have that commitment. You have to give that personal, guys, personal touch is so important because in the old school, we never used to even fax or email or nothing. It was face to face all the time. So my relationships with clients and stuff was unstoppable. I had the best clients, the best rapport with them. And now everything's done by fax. It started with the fax. When I started doing fax, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? Like, you can't do that. It's got to be in person. They fought that. But then, emails, this, even with the phones. So things are there. These tools are there to help us to be better at what we do. But you also have to embrace that personal touch. Use those tools to help us. So Remax is bringing out some of the best tools to help us make our jobs easier, that we can do things for them. But you still have to have that commitment, that relentless belief, and everything else, that do it every day.
Right. And so you might have heard me say this. NAR came out with a survey that said, 2 years after a transaction or 18 months after a transaction, the people that have been involved in the transaction don't remember the name of their agent. Okay, 70%. So what that means is that the realtors aren't connecting with their clients, right? And the study goes that everybody knows probably 5 people that are eventually going to sell in the next year. So they're leaving money on the table. And so obviously the number of touch points you have with your clients is critical. You need to make sure you connect with them one way or another. And one of the things that I've had staff that worked for me over the years is like, we'd have a problem and they go, well, I'm just going to text them. I go, no, you don't text somebody. You pick up the phone and call them. And I know some of the younger generations, that's kind of the way they communicate. But old school really works. If you want to, kind of get the nuance or the tone of what the message is being conveyed, they need to hear your voice. And so sometimes now the younger generation needs to put down their, well, not put down their phone. They need to call the people and basically connect with them. And the more you do that, the more you're going to strengthen the relationship, because it's about mind share, right? Whether, you've sent a flyer out to somebody and they're throwing the name out and they go, oh, there's Daryl King. But I'm seeing Daryl King as I put his flyer into the wastebasket or whatever, but Daryl King is registering in my mind.
3 seconds is all you have. 3 seconds.
That's right. And so the more touch points you have, whether it's that flyer, whether it's, dropping by or dropping off a pumpkin or whatever it is you do, they're going to remember you. And the successful people like yourself and a lot of the people in this room, understand that. And it's touch points are so critical. And, the saying goes, you should have at least 7 touch points throughout the year with your clients. So that's a rule of thumb. I know it varies, but it's something to think
The
about.
more touch points you have with your clients, the greater you'll stay in their memory, especially for referrals and to continued use. Because the old days, I would go and visit people. They'd be there for hours. You'd have lunch with them. You couldn't get away. But those relationships you built were eternal. And if you go to a restaurant sometimes, you'll see 4 people sitting there and they're not even having a conversation with each other. They're on their phone and they're texting. I've gone up to some younger people Sunday times. I said, guys, no disrespect. You have 4 beautiful people here, your friends. Why don't you just enjoy each other? Put your phones away and enjoy the moment with each other and get to understand each other.
They had to text each other first.
Yes, pretty much, right? So that's what I see. And that's what, I see. I have fear that we lose how to communicate. You got on the stage in front of 1,000 people. Like you said, could you imagine so many years ago getting up in front of public speaking? It's one of the greatest fears out there, but you overcome that and you're priceless. So you're going to have to come up against things that you don't necessarily like to do, but it's the things that you conquer that you don't like to do is going to make your biggest improvement upon yourself and your clients moving forward, right? Challenging yourself, because I'm not challenging anyone in this room. I'm not challenging anyone in Remax Canada or Remax International. I'm challenging myself. When my younger ego days, I want to challenge everybody. You cannot challenge everybody. You're going to lose. I'm not a professional sports team, but if I just challenge myself to be better than I was yesterday, think of improving yourself in every way and everything you do by 1% a month. How much greater will you be by the end of the year? 1%. That's all it is.
Sure.
Small steps, right?
Baby steps.
So how do you continue to take those baby steps? Because, you know, you went back as a young baby-faced person to get into this industry. Now you're president of probably the greatest brand in RE/MAX Canada, not even a family member. That's a great achievement. And people might not realize how great of achievement it is. And I know that's why I was so excited when he said, yeah, he'll come here. And, you know, that you had to make a lot of sacrifices. Can you tell us what would maybe have been your biggest sacrifice and your biggest reward?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, I didn't necessarily know where I was going in my career, but one of the things that I did, I made sure that I was always, you know, building my resume, doing things that pushed me outside of my comfort zone. But I also read a lot. I was an avid reader. Like one of the things that I would read on topics that, you know, I wouldn't, first of all, I just started reading about business and I said, well, that's getting kind of boring. And then I started reading obscure kind of books. And then I would go to chapters and it was like, you know, it was kind of like, this is my reward. I get to go and pick a book out. It sounds kind of crazy, but yeah,
I love it. I used to go to chapters for hours.
But
Now it's mostly Audible, but
no, I know.
I was always a chapter. I love chapters.
Yeah, and then I would pick out books like on bizarre things like, you know, the Blue Nile in Africa, and never knew what the Blue Nile was, but I'd read about it, or I'd read about, you know, something in astronomy or something about anthropology or something that I didn't know anything about. And surprisingly, the more you read, the better your conversational skills become. It's just natural. Your vocabulary gets better, and you're able to converse with people because you have such a wider breadth of knowledge. And it was not something I planned to do, but I just became more knowledgeable and more comfortable speaking, and was able to go to, you know, whether it was business meetings or parties or get-togethers, and I could converse on pretty much any topic. And I think that's something that really helped shape me, you know, kind of in the earlier years. And to this day, I continue to read, and it's a great way to, you know, to self-improve yourself.
What did I ask you guys? What's the top 10 books you read? Right? You know, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, one of the greatest books I've ever read, right? You know, you can go through and talk about all these greatest books. You know, Mike Ferry was my mentoring coach for many, many years.
Right.
Now, I don't know anyone personally. Now, I know there's other people have, but me personally, for my depth of knowledge or whatever, he was the greatest reader I knew. He continuously read. Like, that's what he would do. And he would have so much knowledge of outside just the real estate and whatever. So I always said he would, for me personally, he was one of the brightest men that I knew. Right. So it's here. I'm with the president of Canada. There's a correlation. Remember I said 7 traits of successful people? Reading, studying, right? I wrote some personal things that I observed over time, and I wrote them down. I read them to them earlier because I love to study. I can't get enough of it. I could just go somewhere and watch and think. So when I was down in Halifax, I came and I'm going to be resilient for the rest of the year. I'm going to be non-stoppable. Right. And it just popped up, just, you know, spur of the moment. So I love that when you say, you know, you would just read anything and you didn't have the direction you wanted. But once you got that direction, you had more education and more knowledge that you could converse and speak to any audience.
Sure.
Because as, you know, the industry leader, you have to be able to have that conversation and be able to talk at all different levels. So listen to that, because that is priceless. And I can't tell, like, guys, I always said I was the slowest reader, but that's why I loved when they do these all these audibles and stuff, because I could read so much more and just the stuff I really needed to do.
It's funny you should say that, being a slow reader, because I believe I'm slightly dyslexic, and so I'm not a fast reader, and it takes a lot of attention. Like it was a focused effort. You know, to read. Like, so it did take some effort. It wasn't like, you know, like, I love to read. It was, I had a goal in mind, and that's what I did. And then, but every once in a while, it's really strange. You would come across something that was fascinating, and all of a sudden forget about the dyslexia or whatever, and you could read fast. All of a sudden.
Hours upon hours. You're gonna
Yes,
do
it's
one
right.
chapter, you've done 10, and it's
Yeah.
like 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I better go to bed.
Oh
Right?
yeah, for sure.
You know, you get excited. You become so. What is your passion? So, real estate. How did you get to real estate? This is what I really like to know. Like, what were you doing before you said I'm going to go into real estate? How did you get to real estate?
So when I was going in university, I actually went to school for geology. I was going to be either a paleontologist, which is a petroleum geologist. And when I graduated, the oil industry collapsed. And while I was in university, my dad was an engineer. My mom worked at university. They kept saying, go into business. I go, like, and I was
a very analytical family.
But I was rebellious, and I said, "There's no way I'm going into business." And they said, "No, go into business." So I went to university. Once again, I took a diverse, background and ended up with a Bachelor of Science in geology. And then I graduated in the oil industry. I collapsed, and then my parents go back to business. I said, "No, I don't want to go to business." So then I ended up taking computer programming, systems and analysis, but I didn't have the mind. To really be in that space. But I learned a lot about technology. I learned also too, I didn't want to do that. And so my first job was as a business analyst with a real estate company. And I was a business analyst. So all those years of fighting my parents, I ended up in business. And, I just spent time over the years learning, building my resume, reading. And then I started volunteering for real estate as well too, which was really valuable, which is really good for you because what it did, it built a network all across not only Canada, but North America. So I got involved with the Real Estate Institute of Canada, became the president. I went to Korea, I became a director. I had too many job commitments to be the president of Korea. It's now called chair. Same thing with the Toronto Real Estate Board. I couldn't give the time to be the president. I did 2 terms on the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, Toronto Real Estate Board at the time. But once again, I learned through all of these different volunteer things that I did, and it increases your knowledge. But then you build this valuable network, and you meet the Daryls across the country and in the U.S. And then as if you're in sales, they'll start sending you leads, or they'll just be great, business contacts where you can share information with them. And so that was one aspect that, really helped shape my career was the volunteer aspect as well too. And then, obviously then giving back to charities along the way, a lot of participated, a lot of, charities over the course of time. And once again, you meet people and, it's 6 degrees of separation. I mean, I was on an electric call yesterday and Matthew Reagan started talking about the client that launched his career. And, Matthew is a force of nature in the West End of Toronto. He started describing this client and I realized the client was like a friend of mine, a former NFL football player. And I even blurted out, I said, I knew who that guy is. Yeah. So, it's everything comes together and sometimes you don't know, how it's working, but, you just kind of keep plowing forward, keep learning, keep growing, keeping a positive mindset is absolutely critical. And then once again, you'll attain every goal that you want.
So see, it's fascinating. He really didn't have a direction where he was going. His parents were trying to tell him to go into business, but he's rebellious. But yet he does all this studying in different places, whatever. But it was your fortitude or minditude that got to where you go. And it's not, I followed your direction, I did my direction. It was their direction, right? Because it's been planted in his mind. So when did you start realizing that you had a passion for this industry? Because like you said, this industry is very, very tough on a lot of people. It's not meant for everybody. Like lots of things. I couldn't be a professional ball player. I would have loved to. I couldn't be a professional hockey player. I would have loved to. I would have loved to have been a professional sports person, but I didn't have the talent or the skill or the size. So I had to do other things. So when did you realize you had such a passion to follow into this? And you got a long, illustrious career and you've done a lot of things for your knowledge. When did you realize you had that passion and how did you embrace that passion to come to where you're at now? And I know you're only at the beginning of a whole new beginning, right? And that's what I love because I've known you for so many years now. And now I've seen when you're a young baby face, you still got a little gray hair now, but you're still baby face. So the beautiful part is now we're going to see you starting to blossom like a flower. When did you really embrace and get that passion to come to this level where you're at today? Because it's extraordinary.
Well, I mean,
and anybody can do it if they believe in it.
Right. It's really believing in yourself. And a lot of it comes back to full disclosure. I was a part owner in a real estate company, and I tried selling. In full disclosure, it wasn't my forte. I was much more comfortable on the management side of things. And, I did try selling. It's hard. Like, it's not for everybody, right? And that's why I have such respect for all of what you do, because I did try that for a while. I mean, it helped me understand your perspective, but I much more enjoyed the management side of things. And then
Thank God.
yeah. And then once I had focused on the management side, I started, building assets that would, strengthen my career, build my resume, and get my profile. And, I did some writing as well too. And once again, I was a guy that, kind of, enjoyed his way through high school. And if my English teacher ever told me back then that I would be published for some of my articles, I would have said you were crazy. But I started writing articles, and they were okay. But then over time, I got better and better. And then I started getting articles that got published on Inman News, and, I would be syndicated through a number of different channels. And I started writing about leadership. Once again, you start doing all these things, that kind of lay the foundation for where you want to go, even though you may not know the actual destination, you have a general direction. And I knew that, everyone loves real estate. Everybody wants to talk about real estate. It's like, it's like, the number one topic everybody wants to
Doesn't
talk
matter
about.
where you're at
Exactly. And so,
or who you are,
yeah,
right? Everybody.
exactly. And then so when I made that decision that real estate was going to be my vertical, I just really focused on ways to build the assets and skills to be successful. And it's been a great ride.
So if you listen closely, he tried sales. It wasn't his forte. Thank God, because what he had is leadership skills, which were far greater. So, lots of great salespeople want to have a leadership role, whatever, and they fail miserably. And vice versa. If you could have great leadership, you can't be a great salesperson. Now, some can do both, but now he's at a place where, and that's why I'm excited, because now you're going to be the voice of Remax Canada, and you're going to be able to articulate and be a spokesperson for us as a company across Canada. The rest was great, but he didn't, and I used to push him to do more. But I know you're not going to be afraid to take that mic and go up there and speak for the knowledge of real estate. And right now, the real estate industry needs some good eyes. You just happen to see what that real estate company folded. So right now we got a big black eye. So we need great leaders to step up and show the world that, hey, we're not going to fold a tent. We're going to try and get rid of some of these bad apples and to move forward. So, the reason we have the commission trust agreements, me and Mary Ann through early Remax, they went under, and I spent 7 years going to Supreme Court. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No,
I'll have to tell you that story. It's a long story, but what them guys just faced, I thought that would never happen again.
Right.
Like I went through 7 years of Supreme Court, taking on Rico, even the other brokers and stuff at that point. And it was very painful. And, for it to happen again is not good. And hopefully they can find an answer that it never happens again. Right?
Without too much government intervention.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Too much government intervention, and that's what caused most of it, as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree.
Right.
But I just want to go back to one thing. So I said I wasn't good at real estate sales, but one thing that I have learned is everybody sells, right? Like in this position, I'm selling. Even if you don't think you're selling, every aspect has a like a type of sales component. So it's really, understanding what you're able to, basically sell, because in this role, I'm selling Remax.
You're selling a bigger scale now.
But it's a different type of, like
Totally.
I could not do what you do, but, so I do this.
So you think, to me, I always say to anybody, the biggest salesperson and the best salesperson is your dentist, because the dental hygienist has already got you an appointment booked before you're out of that chair
It's true.
for your next time. So I say the dentist is the best salesperson. You may not know how to sell, but they're the best salespeople. There's different ways of selling, right? So you got a bit of time for some questions and answers?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I want to give Don an incredible listen. I'm so honored, that he came here to share his wisdom and his knowledge with us. But now we're going to have a little bit of time for some questions and answers. So let's give him a quick hand right now. All right. So I'm going to start off with one more question, because this is, what piece of advice would you give for an agent today? What if you were, with the knowledge you have and you got so much knowledge, what would that advice be to give to that agent starting out today?
So I think one of the really important things is clients have to trust you. Okay. If they don't trust you, you don't have a relationship with them. And a lot of people come into, this job and they try and be something that they're not. So, I think the successful people, there's only one Daryl. He's authentic. This is who he is, right? And I think people sense if you're authentic, they sense if they can trust you. And, so my advice is be yourself, learn, the sales skills that are required, but, be who you are, because if you're not comfortable, and you're putting on a show, then people are going to sense that. So you need to be authentic, and you need to, earn people's trust. And that would probably be my advice to, anybody that was coming in.
Listen, you're going to make mistakes. Always tell the truth. Guys, if you lie, you don't think you're going to get caught lying, you're not helping anybody. Especially your number one person you help is your clients. Always be fair, always be honest, always be authentic with them. And you may lose because of it, but you're going to win 100 times behind it. So being authentic and being fair and honest,
Sure.
integrity.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, the consumers trust this brand, right? So, we always say that even before you walk in the door, the fact you work for Remax, they know you, right? They know you because they trust the brand. This is the number one brand globally, right? And in all the trust surveys that we've done recently and in the past, we always score higher than any other brand, so that's something that you should be proud of and something that you should always want to maintain. And, the people that take shortcuts usually get burned, right? And, just maintain, kind of, the highest level of standards of that's expected from being with this brand.
Fabulous. So who has a question? Come up here to the mic, Nick. So here's a young buck, right? He's athletic young buck.
Right?
Yes.
What's the young buck's name?
My name's Nico.
Nico.
Yes, very nice to meet you,
Nice
by
to
the
meet
way.
you.
So one of the things that I hear a lot from potential clients is they think that the prices of real estate are going to go down, and so they're waiting for this moment. But considering the fact that like other tangible assets such as like gold and silver have gone on such an absolute run in the past couple of years, and the prices have just gone up, where do you see the future of the real estate market going, considering the fact that it's one of the most necessary tangible assets that anybody will possess?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple aspects to that question. Is first of all, I mean, we have such a high taxation rate here in Canada. Thank you, government. And one of the really, you know, surest ways to accumulate wealth has historically and continues to be real estate. As long as we don't allow the government to tax the equity in our home, it will continue to be, that source of wealth. I mean, you know, we also have, as I talked about, we have an affordability issue, but we also have a lot of, immigration. We have a lot of interprovincial migration. So the demand is there. There's a lot of pent up demand, and we have far more people wanting to own a home than we have homes, right? So, we could spend the next 10 years building homes and we still not have enough homes for the population. And especially if the government, keeps on these record immigration levels. So that to me tells me that, real estate will go up and down. People will react, whether it's, talk of tariffs, you know, whether it's interest rate adjustments or you know, some doom and gloom story, there's always going to be a reaction, but it's cyclical in nature and it always comes back, right? So I think from a long-term perspective, real estate, you know, will continue to be, you know, one of the only ways that we can create substantial wealth in this country, and therefore it will, you know, continue to be something everybody, you know, basically wants to, you know, have. And we've done studies, right? And we said, how important is home ownership, you know, to young demographics, to different demographics, and it continues to be in, you know, rated very high in terms of demand. So, you know, short answer, I think it'll go up and down, but long term, it's a great investment. Bless you.
So
I get
one of the things, great answer, great question. So one of the things I've always told people that real estate, some people play the short game, like the investors on that. And when things were really fast, you know, in and out, could flip 6, 7 times. But, you know, you can get caught. Like in this last couple of years, you've been caught. But I've always told people a solid advice is real estate is a longer term investment. If you're in it for 5 years or longer, chances are you're going to get equity, and you have to have a roof over your head. If you don't have a roof over your head, you're going to pay rent to somebody. So you're building up equity as you own the home. And I always tell clients, you can go in the short term, but you know, think of it as a 5 or 10 year term, and you're going to have equity when you want to make some changes in life. So it's you know, investors are a different breed. So those people, I'll give them different advice. But for an average person, a family, I'm going to tell them they need to be going in it for at least a minimum of 5 year commitment and longer possibly. Because if they do that, you know, I've seen the ups and downs, and generally those ups and downs are from 3 to 8%, you know, in the COVID years, between 20 and 30%, 2 years. That's why prices went out of control. And that's why they're going back toward COVID years. But if you look at it as a longer year term, if you look from this day on, you bought today and you look in 5 years, you're going to do pretty substantial. Your equity is going to enhance tremendously.
Yeah, we just did a study. I don't know if I suggest I'm on LinkedIn. It's I kind of got probably reduced most of my social media. LinkedIn is where I tend to post a lot of things. So, you know, you can find a lot of stuff on my LinkedIn account. But we did the housing driver survey, which just came out. It was basically looking at housing over 30 years. And you see the price escalation of 30 years. Like every single, you know, city had experienced like dramatic appreciation. And I don't see any reason why that doesn't continue in the future, obviously with, you know, some, you know, down cycles, but at the end of the day, I think it'll maintain that, you know, and it'll obviously, you know, salaries will have to adjust accordingly over time. But yeah, I still think it's a good investment.
Next, Carol, come up here to the mic, please. So here's a young rookie. She's been around for a long time. This is Carol Bass. She just joined our organization. We're happy to have her. She's a personal friend and that.
Carol? Very well, thank you.
First, I really enjoyed yesterday. I was on the session with the Stone sisters and Matthew and that. And my question is relating to the Canada on how we're planning on, or Remax Canada, on trying to promote like internationally, so that, because I know that especially now a lot of people are not wanting to move to the US from Europe, and they're sort of looking at Canada.
Right.
And even with Quebec, with 70 doctors within a week that are wanting to basically move to Ontario. I'm trying to think if Remax Canada is trying to promote, because overseas, and especially in Portugal and everything, the agents there are actually, whether it could be that Michael's maybe trying to promote that they contact, you know, Canadian agents, as far as if they have people that are especially moving from all over the world, and they're coming to Canada or being transferred. And I know Matthew and Alice had mentioned about them getting a lot of international versus Kelowna, for instance, or something.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we are very focused on global. we're really focused on, making sure that there's a lot of referrals. Like when people say, oh, I know somebody going to Portugal, then we make sure that, we have those connections through, they have this max refer, which allows you to find, different people globally. But also too, we're getting loud about our success. And, once again, like we have this thing called Global Passport, which we're showcasing luxury properties all over the world. We had Alex and Matthew's $39 million listing in Oakville. And then we also had another property in the US and another one over, I think it was in Uruguay. So what we're doing is letting people know that we are global, right? Because once again, people start thinking about their local market, and the more that we can be out there and get loud about our international kind of presence, and more people will think of us, excuse me, in terms of leads and things like that. So you will see a more stronger or a more intense marketing push on the international and global perspective. And, hopefully we feel confident that will generate more leads. Like we just had a big event in Argentina. Argentina is, a popular destination now. So we're building ties, from Canada to
Remax is big there too. Trust me, they're huge there.
Oh, yeah, they're massive, and their rallies that get so into the Remax spirit and that's something else that you can participate, right? Like you can go to these global.
Sure, in Italy.
Yeah, there's one in
Florence,
Italy.
yeah.
There's one in Mongolia, and these are ways you can go and meet
Networks.
agents. And a lot of people, get by going to R4, people come from all over the world in Las Vegas in February, and you go with a stack of cards and you go up to everybody and go, hi, I'm Don. Hi, I'm Don. And you meet people, you take their cards or you connect with them electronically. And there's a lot of, business that's transacted through these networking events, so we offer all kinds of networking events, make sure that you attend them. And it's really connecting with people, but you're going to see much more. Like I said, we're like Remax is like a startup, but we're not a startup, right? We're, a 52-year-old successful company, but we're behaving like a startup. And everybody like myself that's on the management team, they're excited about the future. They're excited about what we're doing, and we're transforming things. We're doing, we're holding on to the things we did well, but the rest of the things we're going to make even better.
That's one
No,
one
and
thing,
that's
Carol, I was always proud of being Remax was we're in 110 countries then.
120.
No, we were at 110. Listen to the thing. 2 years. We were 110. Now we're 120, which I just found out today. So,
I found out yesterday.
right? So I remember I went to Argentina for 3 weeks with another brand, and I could have done 3 or 4 sales there. I didn't have anybody there. I had been with Remax. I could have had those 3 weeks. I was with a bunch of hockey players. Oh my God, talking about time. But anyway, everywhere I seen Remax. So and that was one of my final decisions to get back here. Like, boom. And even when I was in Italy, same thing. So that during COVID, what I noticed that most brands, and especially it toned down that thing because people were not as traveling as much and being more locked down. But now things have opened up. People are traveling. People are moving more. So, and that's what your leadership is talking about, exposing it even that much greater to what we used to be and even that much more. So it's something that we have something to look forward to, that, we have 32 different nationalities on this team. So, I know he's going back to his home country in December. So he'll be able to go promote himself there. Someone else is going to go to another country. So you're going to have that opportunity to promote to other countries, right? Again, so it's going to be awesome. So great question.
Okay.
Great answer.
But when you travel, like you should go to the local Remax.
I do.
She
I
does.
do.
She's a
I
big network.
actually,
This girl?
yeah, Majorca I actually got a referral from a girl in Greece
Right.
that was at the Majorca one, and her sister was moving from France to Toronto. So I know it works, and they love Canadians. They're so happy to have them there, so they really enjoy it. But I just wondered if there was something that the brand was doing to help
They're
expand
going to
it.
re-expose
So,
it again.
Yeah,
so
it's a big market,
which is great. Yeah. Okay.
Like we have Shauna who heads up global, and she's really focused on
Yeah.
getting loud about our success and our presence. And you'll see that, and you'll start to see they've launched country meetings where you can go and watch country sessions if you want to learn about Lithuania, for instance. You can go and attend these, and
Oh, wow.
you can go and gives you an opportunity to network with different people and get your name out there and connect. So you'll see a lot more things like that over the next.
Hey, watch the
Super.
World Series. You're going to see Remax there,
Oh,
right?
We used to see it
No,
everywhere.
but you'll see when the picture Remax is right there.
Yep.
When the guys are in the bullpen, then you'll see
Yeah.
Remax right there.
Yeah.
So
They always-
they're
yeah.
rebranded again. They had slowed down a bit, but I've noticed they've started to picking it up again.
So that was the other thing when I joined, right? The head of marketing for Remax said to me, name a commercial from another real estate brand that you like, right? And can anybody name a commercial? No, you can't,
No.
because we have $25 million that we spend every year in Canada alone. So $25 million. No other brand is spending that kind of money or has that kind of impact or footprint, right? That's why, Connor McDavid, when you think of Connor McDavid,
He's our client.
yeah, like he's one of ours, right?
Yeah.
And Edmonton Oilers going to the Stanley Cup. Who's on the
Remax.
floorboards? Remax.
Even Leafs.
Yeah, even for
Yeah.
the
Blue
agents.
Jays. World
even
Series,
for,
baby.
even for
Nothing
the
bigger.
agents.
Except
Because I
soccer,
know-
World Cup.
Even we're talking with one of the girls the other day, and the gentleman at the door had said, well, he was waiting on his papers to go to the US. So as soon as he said he was going to Boston, I said, I pointed to the balloon and I said, you realize we can help you. Well, that was a huge kind of sigh of relief for him. He said, that's good to know. So I thought that was a possibility of helping. That was just on a US Canadian one. But anyway, thank you.
No, but I
Okay.
mean, I got a call from somebody up at my cottage, right? And he goes, do you happen to know an agent in Traverse City? Probably a lot of people don't know where Traverse City is. So it's in Michigan. And we actually have an office there. And so I was able to help him, right? Because he knew that we were global. So yeah, anyway, good question,
Thank
Carol.
you.
Anyone else? So here's an orange. Look at this orange. Ada,
Adam.
Hello.
look at how he's
Hey.
How are
very
you?
vibrant.
Very nice meeting you. First of all, we just want to appreciate you coming here. We learned a lot.
Thank you.
And I want to give first a good feedback regarding the Remax Canada, because I go to US a lot because my parents living there. But in Canada, every single city, we can see the balloon, the logo, but in US, you do not see that much. So it shows that in Canada, we are so proactive than US, because I was in Miami, New York, whatever, but you don't see that balloon that much often. But in Canada, it's very popular brand. In everywhere you can find it. And this is my first thing. And the second thing, one of the Remax agents sent me a text and he couldn't make it today. And he asked me to ask you this question. He says, does Remax Canada have any plans to introduce a loyalty or rewards program for agents? Something that offers exclusive, I don't know, discounts or benefits across different services and brands? It means, for example, because agent well-being is a big priority. So what you guys have planned to, for example, help
It's
the
funny you
agents?
should say that. We actually have a proposal from a loyalty program. So yeah, we're exploring that. Probably won't happen this year, but we do have a proposal from a number of companies. But if we go with somebody, we want to make sure it's like a substantial. Like there's only probably a couple that we would want to be associated with. But that's a great question. So yeah, we are exploring it, and hopefully in Q1 of next year, we hopefully have some news on that front.
Okay.
We used to have some of those companies. I've been around for a long time. So somewhere along the way, it disappeared. So they're talking about reinventing it. It's great because, you've got 120 countries with 150,000 agents worldwide. You got a lot of buying power, right? So they can go find some loyalty things that can help everybody.
Everybody wants to be associated with us. That's the beauty of this brand, right? 25,000 realtors and
We got 140, 150 worldwide.
well, and then the number of transactions we do. So yeah, you're going to start to see us really also, capitalizing on our economies of scale to help you do your business. And, there's some really cool products that you're going to see next year, that are going to be for the consumer that we're bringing forward, which will help you once again, have touch points with consumers. So some really exciting stuff coming.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ada. So you got time for one more question?
Sure.
Diane? This is my sister, by the way.
Good
Everybody
morning,
else,
Diane.
she's my wife. She's my
Sister.
sister.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm sorry I missed you in Halifax. I was there a couple months earlier, so I thought I'd better stay and do some work. But I heard it was the
Yeah.
best ever. So congratulations. What a show I heard.
The team did a great job.
Yeah. Well, and the leader of the team also, so congratulations. So mine sort of goes on the tail end of that. I know like home shows and all that, we get a real bang for our buck being able to hand tickets to clients and having a reduced rate when they use them. Will there be things like that looked at as well? Because it's just such a way we can reach out to our
Are
clients.
you talking specifically about the
Toronto
home?
Well,
Home Show.
the Toronto Home Show, but
Yeah,
other
Remax
things.
is the major
Yeah,
sponsor.
we're not stopping.
Oh, that's great. Because at one point they were talking about stopping, and I was devastated because that's one thing my clients take advantage of.
So I'll tell you from my perspective, when I used to compete with you, it used to irk our agents. Like so many agents across the
They call us for
city.
tickets.
Yeah, they want to give their clients home show tickets, and they're livid because they say Remax, right? So the other brands I've been at, they go, oh my God, I have to they want home show tickets, and Remax is right there. And it was like, and then we were getting like a lot of slack because,
They wanted
our
it.
brand was never there on a number of occasions. So it's definitely causing a lot of discomfort for our competition, but more importantly, the consumers love it and they associate it with us. So no, we do plan on continuing to invest in the home show.
I mean, I spend time in the hallway and people will come up to me going, well, how do I get in that line with the VIP? Remax. Give them my card and a ticket. And they're like, what? Like, it's incredible how you can connect and it doesn't cost you anything if they don't use it,
Sure.
but it's very, very cost efficient if they do.
Great testimony, and don't worry about anything.
Thank you. That's
So what Diane is talking about, the Toronto Home Show has been, it's a staple of Toronto. And, everybody talks about real estate. So it doesn't matter what type of economy that people still want to see the latest trends, the latest things, renovations, buying new things, whatever. So it's might have slowed down a little bit in those troubled years, but it will always bounce back. So what Remax has always had is, and I used to really push it myself. I used to get like 50 clients, get 50 tickets for 50 clients. And I'd only paid for the tickets that were used. So if I got, say, 100 tickets, I only used 50 tickets. I would only pay for the 50. But you don't pay face value. They gave you a discounted rate. So let's say it costs $20 to go in. I may have only cost me $10. So one of the best marketing tools that you should offer your clients. So one of the things I didn't get to do in our meeting was to reach out to 100 people. So I didn't have enough time, but I'll talk about it afterwards. And that is one of the great tools that you could do for your clients. So I'm happy that they're going to carry that forward, being a big competitor. And you know what it's like to be on the other side of the fence. It's like, right? So it's great. One more. Anyone else quickly? Going once, going twice. So I would like to say that what would be one last word of advice that you would throw out to anybody here or anywhere that's listening abroad? Because then we're going to broadcast this everywhere. So, we love your wisdom. And one thing, he's always got a great smile. And, he's never been too busy. He's very humble. He's never been too busy that, when sometimes you get up to here, it's sort of, you just push people aside and stuff like that. But he's always had the time to talk, share his wisdom. And again, to even come here is a great honor. So what last wisdom would you like to share with everybody before we part our ways here? Till next time.
Until next time. Okay. Well, I think I've really kind of shared a lot of my philosophy, right? As like I said, you give what you get, and just keep giving, and like I said, be authentic, be humble, be yourself, and the world will deliver everything you want. I firmly believe that. So, It's great spending time with you. I would, once again, you should be proud of everything that you've accomplished and continue to accomplish. And I wish you great success. And apparently I'm coming back, so I look forward to seeing you again.
I'd like to thank especially Don for coming here, because I said he's got such a busy schedule, and that he committed to come to our event. I can't tell you how honored I am. And I hope you guys feel the same way. To anybody watching out there, I'm honored that you're here also, because time is your most valuable thing, your health and your time. So no matter what, those two are always your most valuable. So this is Daryl King sharing with the mindsets with the president of RE/MAX, Don here, and with the Daryl King team and anyone out there. I want to say God bless to all. Let's go Jays. Woo! All right.